It's not easy being cheesy, or is it? Welcome to Sound Bites. I'm your host, Jennifer Chandler, and I'm at Gray's Fine Cheeses and Entertaining during a busy lunch hour with owners Jackie Mao and Kurt Mullican. This week, we'll talk about all things cheese, including raclette, fondue, and the Cheese Olympics. And yes, there is such a thing. Sound Bites is the Daily Memphian's weekly food, drink, and dining podcast. You can tune in on WYXR Radio every Thursday at 11 a.m. or listen wherever you get your podcast, iTunes or Spotify, or listen at dailymemphian.com. If you are listening on WYXR, up next you can listen to Sidebar with Eric Barnes. But let's get started talking about all things cheese. Jackie and Kurt, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So, can we start with where you were last weekend, the Cheese Olympics? I know that's not the real name, but that's kind of what it is.
It is.
Tell us about this competition.
So the Cheesemonger Invitational is in New York. They host it every year. It starts kind of as it takes place at around the same time as a fancy food show. So there's a ton of like suppliers, distributors, and cheese people in town. And so I think 14 years ago, this company, Maker to Monger, who imports some of the best cheese in the U.S. today, they started this competition to start bringing the cheese community together and to start educating mongers as well as making a sport out of cheesemongering. And it's done wonderful for the world of cheese. It's starting to garner a lot of attention.
That sounds so exciting. So how did you get invited to compete in this competition?
Well, I went as a spectator last year, and I was so blown away at just how awesome it was, how many people they crammed into Brooklyn Steel, which is like a concert venue. It's really similar to Minglewood Hall if you've ever been there, a little bit bigger. But, going in there and seeing just how exciting this competition was and how excited everybody was to be there, and that's a thing in cheese. You don't really meet upset cheesemongers. Like, people behind a cheese counter love genuinely to be there, and just imagine that and just a whole festival.
That sounds so exciting.
I met the guy that put it on. He kind of squeezed us in. I think it was sold out, and he learned a little bit about our store. And we got in last year, and I said, this year was the year. Jackie really pushed me to do it. She likes to get me out of my comfort zone quite a bit.
Absolutely.
And you know what? I stuck my application in, and next thing you know, I'm in it.
So now, to compete, obviously you're not making a cheese because
Right.
you're a cheesemonger that sells cheese, but you're not a cheese maker. So, but what did you create? Was it a pairing of some type of cheese, or?
Yeah, so it's kind of like a decathlon based around cheese. So there's 10 events that you go through, and it's one after the other after the other. It's everything from a written test, a blind taste testing, aroma testing, cutting, wrapping in paper, wrapping in plastic, and then kind of the one everybody really leans into is the perfect pairings. And so you get assigned a cheese ahead of time. You got to do one cheese with a perfect beverage, one with a perfect pairing, as a perfect bite, I guess, and then a perfect plate. So 3 pairings with one cheese. And it's a stiff competition.
That's a lot. That's a lot going on. And again, remind me how many, is it one day?
So the whole thing is 4 days long,
4 days long, okay.
But most of it is education and community building.
But the competition part itself is
on Sunday.
Is on one day. That's
day.
a lot going on one day.
Yeah, I was wiped.
And he ate a lot of cheese.
Oh, I bet.
At the end of the day, he did not want to have any dinner.
So through the competition, during the education components, they bring in cheesemakers. We learn about the processes and fine-tuning, and we really get into the nitty-gritty of good cheese. And I had 26 cheese plates.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
that's a lot of cheese.
Yeah.
Did you have to have lactate?
It got heavy. By the last day, I was barely finishing those plates. But it was awesome.
But I was going to ask, when you talked about one of the things that you competed on was the aroma. And it's are you blindfolded? And then, I love a good stinky cheese. But there are some cheeses that are a little overwhelming. I couldn't imagine having to pick up a plate and stick my nose in something that'd be woo, that's some real stinky socks.
Right, yeah. So just like you would with wine, the aroma testing was basically picking out singular aromas. That way, you know, when you get into cheese, you might smell, let's say, roasted peanut in a stinky cheese, rather than just being overwhelmed by the stink. So being able to like isolate those aromas and those volatile compounds that create taste.
So it's all about, you know, when they talk about having a palate and umami and all the different tastes that you can have, you know, when you really think about that is it olfactory? Yes, that your nose is the same way, that you can pick up all the different nuances just beyond that overwhelming. Sometimes, you know, to me, like rinds can be very, you can almost taste like, or like ammonia, you know, like it can be very kind of that smell that's overwhelming, but that you could pick out a nutty note or an herbaceous note beyond
the
that.
Ammonia,
The aroma of all that. That's pretty crazy. So what was your perfect pairing?
So I was assigned a cheese that I'd never had before, which, you know, that's why I love cheese. You're never going to try every cheese in the world, but doing it is a great challenge and a wonderful hobby. But I was assigned a cheese that we don't really get here in Tennessee through any kind of distributorship. But the dairy farmers of Wisconsin were actually super generous with their sample. They sent me this cheese. It was called Luna. And Luna is this beautiful cheese made by Hill Valley Dairy in Wisconsin. And it's kind of like an Alpine, like Swiss-style cheese mixed with an aged Gouda. It's kind of like they had a little Alpine Gouda baby. And it's wonderful, like super peanut buttery and really rich. So they sent me like 2+ pounds of this cheese. And creating a perfect bite with such a flavorful cheese is something that I'm actually not a fan of doing. Something that tastes so strong and so good that I rarely mess with things like that. And sometimes I might just put it with a piece of chocolate or something to bring out those caramel notes that you get in these aged Goudas. But I wanted to go further. So my perfect bite was, since it's grassy and peanutty, I kind of like leaned into Thai flavors. And I did a jalapeno kettle chip with the cheese on top, a sriracha orange marmalade, fish sauce peanut caramel, red onion, and a little cilantro leaf. And that was my...
It was incredible.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Did you get to try it?
Yes, I did. Especially when he was making it at home and, you know, kind of testing. It was incredible.
My friend John, down at Son of a Butcher in Alabama, he won the Perfect Bite competition.
Oh, wow.
But I will say, you know, when I was over by where the Perfect Bites were, I saw some people taking photos of the sign. So I just asked one lady, I was like, hey, what was your favorite bite? And she walks back to my tray. I was like, that's my bite. But, you know, ultimately it's about making people happy. And like when somebody puts something in their mouth and it all works, like I think that's why we all do what we do.
Yeah, that's great. Well, speaking of making people happy, I was very happy when I learned that you've done some changes to your menu, and there are some additions that I was super excited about. Fondue and raclette. And I know you've had those items, like you've done special dinners that have featured them, or you could make reservations, and I could never get my act together to get here for those. And now they're on the menu every day?
Yes. One of the struggles with doing fondue all the time was kind of just like whittling down our recipe to fit just two, you know. It's typically something we make, you know, a lot of, using like 2 pounds of cheese. It's a very expensive process. So, you know, whittling it down, making sure we could prep for it. So we kind of got that down. But a menu change, I guess something that we really wanted to do that we kind of like, I don't want to say veered away from in the past, but it was getting back to our roots of cheese, you know. And fondue and raclette, you can't really talk about cheese without talking about those things almost. So we really wanted to get back to it and be able to do it all the time. And Jackie knows, you know, I'm really passionate about Swiss Alpine cheeses.
Oh, yes.
They have the best milk in the world and such a deep tradition of food, all kind of based around cheese. You think the dishes of Switzerland, you think tartiflette, cheese, fondue, cheese, raclette, cheese. So brachas, cheese. So like with all these Swiss dishes, you know, seeing their passion, being there, visiting, I wanted to bring that back here and share it with people so they just get an idea of what it is.
Yeah, I'm about to be very cheesy when I say this. In my image, when you're talking about cheese and how they have the best milk, I envisioned the hills as Sound of Music The hills are alive. I can't even sing. but I'm pictured Julie Andrews on the hill with a cow in the background.
Well, you're not far off. I have a cheese in my case right now that is made by the Von Trapp family.
Oh, wow.
From The Sound of Music.
That's so crazy.
You know, with that thought, here it is validated in the flesh, or in the cheese, I say.
So, and I bet it tastes a lot better than I can sing.
Wonderful, yeah.
You don't have to sing. It's okay.
It's okay. Julie Andrews, bless her soul. I'm not going to try to imitate her at all. So, fondue. Most people know what that is. That it is this lovely kind of melted cheese that has some wine in it, and is there brandy, or there's some kind of, or there's another spirit in there too?
Kirsch.
Kirsch.
Yes. So a brandy, I guess, made from the pits of cherries.
Okay.
So it's nutty.
So, and you dip bread into it, and you can dip different things into it. So what you're serving here is a traditional, would you say it's traditional or non-traditional?
Yes, it's traditional plus apples. You know, everybody's dogmatic about food. You know, if you put a video of you cooking an egg on the internet, 800 people are going to tell you you're doing it wrong.
Yep.
And, you know, fondue is kind of the same, but I think most Swiss people would say, you know, just bread and cornichons and silver skin onions only. But, you know, it's wonderful with apples. Most places you go in Switzerland will give you the option to add charcuterie or some type of cured meats. And you know what? It's all good together. So I think we're probably a little modern, you know, adding the apples and charcuterie, but a very traditional recipe, absolutely.
And when you come in first to get one here, it's for two. And
Yes.
it's only in the evenings, correct?
It's only available in the evenings.
I mean, it's a serving for two, but if you're hungry enough, one, you know, I say go for it.
Well, I always joke that, you know, Ben and Jerry kindly came out with a single serving pint for me.
Right, yeah. that's one serving.
Yes.
It is one serving. Okay, so raclette. So
Yes.
I know what raclette is because I love all things cheese. And I was lucky enough in my younger life to be able to travel. So I've had raclette in the motherland of Switzerland.
Ooh.
But not a lot of people know what raclette is. So can you kind of tell everybody what this fabulous dish is that they can now enjoy here in Memphis?
I like to tell people raclette is it's a verb and it's a noun. So it could be a dinner or a cheese or the act of melting the cheese in the machine. You know, the verb of doing raclette, I guess. And traditionally, over 400 years ago, cheesemakers generally make cheese for themselves too. And a lot of these guys are kind of stuck up in the Alps, you know, with their only friends are animals. And so they would gather kind of around a fire at night. And one of the things that they could do is take things like potatoes or even cured meats with them, stuff that would hold up. You know, refrigeration wasn't a thing. So they would kind of park a wheel of cheese next to the fire at night and then like scrape it over their potatoes that they had cooked. And that was really like the birth of the dish. Was like, you know, fellowship of cheesemakers around a fire. And I think that's so awesome. And so, you know, raclette is a traditional Swiss cheese. It is washed, so to the nose it would be considered a stinky cheese, but it's incredibly velvety, smooth, melty, very nutty and rich. And ultimately it's just meant to be scraped over foods that you love. You know, the traditional raclette dinner is typically just potatoes, and cornichons, scrape of raclette over it, and watching this just beautiful velvety fountain of cheese being scraped onto your plate. You know, there's something. It's pretty awesome. You know, nobody.
It is. It's a whole presentation.
Yeah.
I mean, eating fondue is fun because it's a presentation, but raclette is really it's a show.
It is.
It's interactive eating.
No one sees somebody just scraping a mountain of bubbly cheese onto a plate and is mad about it.
Yeah.
So,
We usually have people sit at the bar and see us scrape, and then they have not ordered raclette, but say, you know what? Let me also have a raclette sandwich. Yes, let me get one of those.
So that's great. And so what do you serve, like in your presentation? Is this like fondue that it's a serving for two, or is it a serving for one? Or how
we
does
do it per person.
Okay.
And you can do the traditional one just kind of over potatoes. And, we use a roasted potato. I think traditionally they're boiled. I know over here, this side of the pond, we like a little more flavor sometimes than that. And so we do like a really nice roasted potato, well seasoned in cast iron, and we scrape the cheese over that. So you can do traditional, or you can get it as a sandwich.
A sandwich?
Yeah.
That sounds very interesting.
Yeah, so we'll just like open a toasty baguette, lay some, great stuff in there, whether it's roast beef or prosciutto, and you can pick your pickle, which is cool because raclette's very rich. It needs a pickle. That's why they always serve cornichons or those little French sour pickles with it, something to cut through the richness. And so we give you a variety of pickles to choose from, and you can really kind of just build your sandwich the way you want it.
So that sounds really cool. I have to admit, I had lunch here earlier today. I may have to come back for dinner tonight.
I think so.
That's so exciting. So, Jackie.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite between the two, fondue and raclette?
I like the raclette sandwich. Yes, absolutely. It is just delicious, and the crunchiness of the baguette along with the melted cheese is just the perfect combination.
Okay. I'm going to take your advice, and when I come, that's going to be my first thing I try then.
Raclette sandwich.
Or raclette sandwich, because it's something I've never had before or even heard of. So I love that idea. Bread and cheese. As I said, I don't know who made up that saying, it's not easy being cheesy, because it sure sounds good to me. You're listening to the Daily Memphian Sound Bites with me, Jennifer Chandler, and today we're talking with Jackie Mao and Kurt Mullican at their restaurant Gray's Fine Cheeses. If you're tuning in on WYXR, keep listening for the sidebar with Eric Barnes after this. If you're listening through your podcast app, be sure to subscribe. You can also find our other Daily Memphian podcast, The Sidebar with Eric Barnes about art, culture, and more, Grizzlies Pod with Drew Hill and Chris Harrington, Behind the Headlines Podcast Edition, On the Record, an occasional political podcast with Daily Memphian legend Bill Dries. So, Gray's Fine Cheeses. Remind me, you've been here 3 years now?
Coming up on 3 years.
3 years.
A 3-year
Okay.
anniversary, yes.
So you're located in East Memphis in the Williamsburg Village Shopping Center, which is basically at Mendenhall and Poplar. And you have this huge shop that is like combination cheese shop, marketplace, restaurant, sometimes classroom.
Yes.
It's really a great, great concept. So my first question for you is, what got you into cheese? What made you kind of want to go into the cheese business?
Ah, man. I touched on this a little bit earlier. I always tell people that cheese is a hobby that you can do for a lifetime. It's something that, you can always try to taste every cheese that you can. And I think that was just kind of me, I love the mystery of cheese, the history of cheese, the tradition. I think it's amazing. And it's always been this like low pressure hobby that I felt like I could do anytime, anywhere, and to find a new cheese and to find something you like, it's awesome. And it's just kind of in the back of my mind. So I was doing a little work, I guess, doing some private chef stuff. And, the thing that struck me about cheese boards being popular on the internet was like not that they were not celebrating what was being put on the plate. And a lot of times they're not even using like great cheese. They're just using like whatever cheese. So, for me, it was like defending cheese is important and defending the work that these people do and the history and the tradition behind it. But yeah, it was always kind of just like a hobby for me. And, upon going to Paris, Jackie found the Parisian cheese shop and kind of fell in love. And I'd been kind of slinging some cheese boards. And she calls me and she's like, we should do this. We should just open a cheese shop. You have this like burning passion, and these shops are so cute. So, it was kind of a mix of passion and inspiration.
Yeah, I still remember I was in Paris with, it was a girls' trip, my mom and the girls. And I called Kurt and I said, golly, we don't have a cheese shop in Memphis. We really need to do this. And I'd worked in the food industry for years and had seen a lot of things that I did not like. So when we opened the store, we said, we really need to focus on the small creameries. So we support small creameries, and we travel through the U.S. and around the world to source and make sure that we are supporting the right people. And a lot of them have small herds. And we were in a place in Spain, in northern Spain, and we visited Eneco, who makes Idia Sabal, and he has about 100 sheep.
104 Lacha sheep.
Yes, and then he said, I know my herd so well that I go out into the farm, I look at them, and if one is sick, I know that something's wrong. And you just don't really get that when you're eating factory mass-produced cheese.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Yes.
That's pretty amazing.
Yes.
I will give a little plug for your Instagram because I have followed y'all's Instagram before, and when you take some of your trips, you're posting about it.
Yes.
And you get to see, listeners out there, you get to see where these cheesemongers and these farms that they're visiting, and it makes you want to come in and then say, okay, do you have that cheese yet? Where you were, where you were visiting, because it's so inspirational to see these small farms that, they're usually beautiful and beautiful landscapes, but also to see the passion of the person behind the cheese that's making it. So it's very, very exciting. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
And, for posting all your adventures. So I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this, your cheese display case right now, and I'm trying to be like, can I count all this? Like, about how many cheeses do you carry at a time?
I don't even know, actually. I just try to keep a good selection of tastes and textures of milk types, and keep the things that I'm passionate about, and try to have variety. If when we first opened, I thought I should have 1,000 cheeses or 10,000 cheeses, 120, to be real. And what you learn is curation is and passion is far more important than trying to please everyone. And even if I had 10,000 cheeses, I would still never please every customer, And I really just kind of hold that and think about what I'm getting and how I'm getting it and who I'm getting it from and what it is, more than anything. So, I would say anywhere between 15 and 30 on most days. But it's all been because maybe it's something I need to revisit, or something I'm just really hyped about, at the time. And cheese is not an easy business.
No.
So a lot of the times, these small farms, they might, their production is low. I might not get some of the things I ordered, and I got to have a plan for that. So, yeah.
It's kind of interesting. Well, one of the things I love, when I've come shopping here for cheese before, is that, one, you're so knowledgeable about what's in your case because you can, hear your passion about what you're serving. But then also, some of this times you've let me taste things. Do you still do that if you're trying to decide what you were wanting to do, so that you can make a decision if it's a cheese that you're not familiar with, if you want to buy a wedge of it to take home and enjoy it home?
I love that. I love leveling people up. I don't expect anybody that comes in to be a cheese expert. They use general terms like brie. I know that they like soft cheese. So, I might give them a taste of something that they've never had before, and to see their eyes light up, or to see these connections happen, or some kind of new understanding is, again, it's why we do what we do. We're jazzed for them. They're jazzed about the new thing they just discovered. And like I said, there's no upset cheesemongers.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that's great when you're, about sharing that information, because you are cheese shop, you have all the accoutrement behind me that, you need crackers or sauces or jams or mustards. Anything you need to make a charcuterie spread is available here in the store. It's one-stop shopping. You have a great lunch and dinner menu. But I want to touch shortly on, before we run out of time, you guys are all about education. Yes. And I think that is really, really cool, because you have so many interesting opportunities for Memphians to come in and learn about cheese. So can you tell us what any coming up in the next couple of weeks that you'd want to talk about?
Yes, we actually, every Tuesday, we have educational workshops at 6 p.m. at our store, usually at our store. We do sometimes go in other spaces. We were at El Mero Taco, and we had a cheese and mezcal pairing. And that, now they're going to be coming to us on July 23rd, and we're going to do a cheese and tequila pairing class. So, yes, so we do every Tuesday at 6 o'clock. We have various classes. We have the basics, cheese 101, fundamentals. We have coming up, yes, actually on the 30th of July. We also have wine and cheese pairing fundamentals, and then we also do a couple of things like venturing out, like Cheeses of France, a celebration of Bastille Day, which is on the classes on the 16th. So the focus is to continue to teach folks in the South about all of the different cheeses, that cheese is just not about pairing it with wine. You can pair cheese with many things, and it's really just a fun and interactive thing, and the classes are led by Kurt. And he's definitely very entertaining.
The cheese and mezcal class, I had not tried much mezcal in my day. At first it was like gasoline, but talking to Jacob and Clarissa at El Mero Taco, we had such a good time, and they taught me all about mezcal, and that class was so much fun. I'm so excited to have them here on the 30th to do a tequila thing, because that's, I love a challenge, and and Cheese 101, that's absolutely my favorite class to teach, so I like to empower people to feel confident going to any cheese case in the world.
That's great. Well, and I'll just give a plug that all your classes are listed online on your website,
yes,
which is gracecheese.com.
Yes.
Gracecheese.com.
Gracecheese.com.
So you can find out about that. And you guys also have 2 locations in Nashville now?
Yes, we have the one on the west side of Nashville on Charlotte and 41st, and we have one at the factory in Franklin.
That's exciting. But the original is here in Memphis.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right, of course.
Well, that's about all the time we have. I could keep talking about this subject. It's so good. One of my favorite subjects, cheese. So now that we're coming to an end, you can tune in on WYXR Radio every Thursday at 11, or listen wherever you get your podcast, iTunes or Spotify, or listen at dailymemphian.com. Jackie and Kurt, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.